I'd like to call to order the Village of Riverside Board of Trustees regular meeting for Thursday, November 18th, 2021 at 7 o'clock. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Haley, if you would please call the roll. Here.
Trustee Pollock. Here. Trustee Marshowska.
Here.
Trustee Gallegos.
Here.
Trustee Hannan.
Here.
Trustee Evans.
Here.
Trustee Clarity.
Here.
Village Manager Francis.
Here.
Village Attorney Mars.
Here.
Also present, Village Clerk Haley.
Thank you. First up is the President's report, and I have several things on my report tonight. First of all is the recognition of three of our retiring commissioners, Jack Buccio, Greg Gorski, and Kathy Maloney. Is Commissioner Jack here? Commissioner Buccio here? Hi, Jack. Whereas Jack Buccio provided dedicated service to the Village of Riverside as a member of the Economic Development Commission, having been appointed to the commission in 2013 and serving to 2021. And whereas Jack Buccio has provided expertise and oversight and served as a valued resource on numerous economic development related issues over the years, and whereas Jack Buccio is well known for his quiet leadership style, his love and infectious enthusiasm for Riverside, and its potential both as a great place to raise a family and run a business. And whereas Jack Buccio spent countless hours in service to the community through his work on implementing aspects of CMAP, Central Business District Plan for Riverside, and whereas Jack Buccio was an integral part of the Economic Development Commission's rebranding effort, which resulted in the implementation of a fresh new village logo and the implementation of the Get Off the Grid campaign to boost awareness of Riverside. And whereas Jack Buccio has selflessly volunteered his time and talent, public service, and displayed great commitment and devotion to advancing the best interests of the Village of Riverside and its residents. Therefore, this be it resolved that I, Joseph Ballerine, on behalf of the entire Riverside Board and Trustees, do hereby express to Jack Buccio our sincere and deep appreciation for his outstanding service and dedication to the Village of Riverside and its residents. Dated this day, 18th of November, 2021. Thank you, Jack.
What I'd like to say is I will probably be back in the future. I needed to take some time and step back due to health issues and starting a new business, and I just couldn't manage everything as well as I thought I could. But I appreciate all of the time I spent on the board. I appreciate this unexpected acknowledgement. And every time I look at the logo, I love it. I was pushing for that from the first time I saw it. I love it. I think it represents our town well. And once again, I thank you all for your acknowledgement, and I'll be back at some point. I just needed to step back for a while. So thank you.
Thank you, Jack. And every time we look at the logo, we think of you. Is Greg Gorski here tonight? Yes. How you doing, Greg? Greg, I was liaison to the TV commission for a long time and found Greg and asked him to be part of the commission, and he accepted, and it's been a great run, and I really appreciate it. And you go down with some wonderful names: Don Farnham, Dr. Bob, and Steve Wojaks. Some of the pillars, and you are some of the pillars of Riverside TV. So we appreciate it. Whereas Greg Gorski has provided dedicated service to the Village of Riverside as a member of the Riverside TV Commission, having been appointed to the commission in 2011 and then serving as chairman from 2013 until 2021. Whereas Greg Gorski has provided expertise and oversight and serves as a valued resource on numerous Riverside TV related issues over the years. And whereas Greg Gorski was responsible for the creation of the Riverside TV website, And whereas Greg Gorski spent countless hours in the service of the community through his work on Riverside TV, where he oversaw the transformation from standard definition to high definition broadcasting. And whereas Greg Gorski was instrumental in fostering relationships with Riverside Public School District 96, and Riverside Township resulted in intergovernmental agreements to film and broadcast D96 and Riverside Township board meetings, providing greater transparency to the community. And whereas Greg Gorski has selflessly volunteered his time and talent to public service and has displayed great commitment and devotion to advancing the best interests of the Village of Riverside and its residents through the creation of the Memories of Riverside program, which documented the stories of longtime Riverside residents. Therefore, let it be resolved that I, Joseph Ballerina, on behalf of the entire Riverside Board of Trustees, do hereby express to Greg Gorski our sincere, deep appreciation for his outstanding service and dedication to the Village of Riverside and its residents on this day, November 18th, 2021.
Well, thanks a lot, and I've had a great time doing it. I learned a lot, and I'm very proud of what everybody was able to accomplish, and moving forward, it's great to see. We've got a first-rate TV station here now, so I may be back, but thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you.
Commissioner Maloney. Got to move that over, or you got to move over because we can't see you. Whereas Kathy Maloney has provided dedicated service to the Village of Riverside as a member of the Landscape Advisory Commission, having been appointed to the commission in 2011 and then serving as chairman from 2016 to 2021. And whereas Kathy Maloney has provided expertise and oversight and served as a valued resource on numerous landscape-related issues over the years, and whereas Kathy Maloney has sought out creative ways for the Landscape Advisory Commission to engage residents in learning about the Riverside landscape by promoting programs such as the Arboretum walking tours and lectures, the iNaturalist Challenge, Bio Blitz, and the Guess the Age of the Oak. And whereas Kathy Maloney has provided excellent advice and counsel on landscape-related matters for the Village of Riverside, consistently seeking to advance the common good and promote an understanding of Riverside landscape, the planting concepts and principles of Frederick Law Olmsted, as whereas the landscape architecture firm of Olmsted, Vaux and Company, and their relationship to the general plan of Riverside. And whereas Kathy Maloney has spent countless hours in the service to the community through her work in developing the Commission's master landscape plan and recently updated landscaping and a landmark village homeowners guide. And whereas Kathy Maloney was instrumental in advocating for and securing the village's accreditation as an ArbNet certified arboretum. And whereas Kathy Maloney has selfishly volunteered her time and talent to public service and has displayed great commitment and devotion to advancing the best interests of the Village of Riverside and to its residents. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Joseph Ballerina, on behalf of the entire Riverside Board of Trustees, do hereby express to Kathy Maloney our sincere and deep appreciation for our outstanding service and dedication to the Village of Riverside and its residents, dated this day, November 18th, 2021. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you all very much. This is indeed unexpected and a delight. I have to give all the credit to the team that I worked with, just some excellent group of commissioners and volunteers that we worked with throughout the years, and of course with your help. Thank you so much.
And I got, and I was fortunate enough to take a look at the landscape video that LAC and Riverside TV put together. It's an amazing, and I can't wait till it gets published and the residents get to look for it.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
I got a couple more things. Second is a motion to appoint Eve Bars to the Landscape Advisory Commission to fill a vacancy, term to expire 2021. May I please have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make the second.
Motion by Trustee Evans, second by Trustee Gallegos. Ms. Haley, if you would please call the roll.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marshaga.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Clarity.
Aye.
Ms. Bars is here, Eve is here with us tonight, so if you, could you please swear her in?
I left the paperwork in back, so I'll have to have you sign at another time, but if you could raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Eve Bars, do solemnly swear
I, Eve Bars, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of
and I
Illinois,
will faithfully perform the duties
and I will basically perform the duties
of the Office of Landscape Advisory Commissioner
on the duties of the Landscape Advisory Commissioner
for the Village of Riverside, Illinois,
for the Village of Riverside, Illinois,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eve, we appreciate it.
Appreciate it very much.
Couple other items. 2 weeks ago, the RB Bulldog cross-country team finished 5th in state. The highlights include Riverside residents. Highlight included several Riverside residents. An impressive third place Prutos 14:45, second, his personal best for 3 miles, and the second highest finish, and is the second highest finish in 55 years in state for RB. Followed closely and supported by Southmore Cooper Mars 15:18. Rounding out the team, 5th place win are Riverside residents Hayden Mars, Will Callis, Zach Gaynor, and Brookfield residents Brennan Lester. I would also like to recognize another Riverside State runner representing Fenwick High School, Carl Lucas. Gentlemen, Riverside is very proud of you, so thank you very much. Last thing is, the violence that has touched our doorsteps last weekend is one that has never been seen in our community and is an absolute outlier for what to expect here in Riverside. It is important to know that our police force and the West Suburban Major Crimes Task Force are working around the clock to bring the perpetrators to justice. It is important to know with confidence that our Director of Public Safety, Mr. Buckley, and his force have the tools, dedication, and integrity to effectively protect our community. I know that not all the time news can be disseminated into the community as fast as rumors travel on social media, or as our news organizations would like. But please know that the decisions about releasing information is being made around, number one, to assure and reinforce residents that their safety has not been compromised, which is always our number one priority. Number two, to retain the integrity of an ongoing investigation. And number three, to be respectful of the victim, their families, and to protect the innocent and the innocent families from future harm. So I encourage you all to visit the Village of Riverside website and follow the links to liking the Village of Riverside Facebook page, as well as signing up for Riverside eFlash. This is where all news and information will be released in a timely and effective manner. That is all I have. Manager's report.
Thank you, President Ballerine. I just have one item. I wanted to remind residents that village offices will be closed on Thursday and Friday next week. So if you have any village business to conduct, we'll be open Monday through Wednesday from 8 to 4:30 at the administrative offices, and then Public Works actually closes an hour earlier at 3:30. Parks and Rec, their hours will remain the same, and if you've signed up for any programs for Monday through Wednesday, those will remain unchanged. That is all I have. And oh, happy Thanksgiving to Riverside. Thank you.
The consent agenda, we have several items on the consent agenda this evening. Approval voucher list of bills November 18th, 2021. Approve the Village of Board of Trustees public hearing and regular meeting minutes November 4th, 2021. Review and file Community Development, Finance, Fire, Police, and Public Works Department October monthly reports. review and file Riverside TV 2022 work plan. A motion to approve the special events application for the Riverside Chamber of Commerce Holiday Stroll to be held on Friday, December 3rd, 2021. A motion to approve the special events application for the Riverside Swim Club Christmas Party to be held on Friday, December 3rd, 2021. A motion to approve the special event application for the Riverside Golf Club Family Sleigh Ride to be held on Thursday, December 16th, 2021. A motion to approve a special events application for Wreaths Across America to be held in Guthrie Park on Sunday, December 18th, 2021. A resolution authorizing the sale or disposal of personal property owned by the Village of Riverside. A resolution amending the Village of Riverside's employee manual and adopting administrative policy relative to transition facilitation incentive. A resolution waiving competitive bidding and authorizing the village manager to enter into various purchase orders for fiscal year 2021. Resolution of the Village of Riverside waiving competitive bidding and authorizing the village manager to issue a purchase order to TKB Associates for the purchase of a Laserfish document management software. Do any of these items need to be removed?
President Ballerini, if I may, I would just like to make a clarification for the meeting minutes for the regular meeting for November 4th. For item 9B, it presently reads, consensus of the board was to install the split rail fence, and we will be amending it to say the majority of the board supported installing the split rail fence.
Okay, thank you. With that notation, do any of the trustees need anything to be removed? Okay, if I can have a motion?
Motion made.
Motion by trustee Gallegos, second?
Second.
Second by trustee Pollock. Ms. Haley, if you please call the roll.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marshazga.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Clarity.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We move on to board and commission reports. Tonight, I'd like to introduce Chairperson Colin Hughes from the Riverside TV. Colin has been around Riverside TV since he was 15. He obviously went away to college, has came back and has volunteered and comes to us with extensive credentials. He's worked on some major movies, and now he's volunteering for Riverside TV. And they worked their 2022 work plan, and he'd like to give us a overdraft.
Yeah, well, thank you all for having me tonight. I'm excited to be here and really excited what we have in store for Riverside TV in the next year and past that. The cornerstone of our operation is the recording of meetings just like these. The Village Board, Township Board, District 96, Planning and Zoning Commissions, and other commissions as we get requested. In addition to that, we provide other filming services for community events in the village, such as Holiday Stroll, the Parks and Rec's recent horror drive-through event, and many others. 2021 saw a lot of the governmental bodies shift back to hybrid or 100% in-person meetings, and that presented some interesting challenges for our staff. If you've ever had issues with a Zoom call, you can imagine what we have to run into when we have to coordinate between Zoom calls, in person, all that, and our staff just did a fantastic job managing it across the board. In fact, District 96 was having such a hard time that they were trying to do it on their own without us for a while, and they called us back and like, hey, help us. And we're happy to do so. And any community that doesn't necessarily have an AV department or filming capabilities, we're happy, like we did with District 96 and the township, to try and work something out to help them as well. Although not very glamorous, one of the projects we recently finished was upgrading our archival capabilities back in our offices. We now have a cloud backup of all of our files, so if something catastrophic were to happen, nothing would be lost. Looking forward to 2022, we put together our first work plan ever, which is very exciting for us. One of the exciting collaborations we're doing this year is with the Economic Development Commission, in which we're crowdsourcing videos and photos on a quarterly basis and putting together a video that showcases Riverside. We're calling it This is Riverside, and we're really excited to be working with the EDC on that. Our first video is for October 2021, and we got over 100 submissions. That'll be out in a few weeks, hopefully. A special thank you to Jason Valley for spearheading that project. One of the other initiatives that we'll be taking in 2022 is starting on the second season of Memories of Riverside, which is a docu-series program that we produce that tells the story of a longtime Riverside resident and what their experiences living in Riverside as it's developed throughout the years have been. First season included residents such as the late Don Farnham, Joan Cozy, Paul Stack, and many others. If you know anybody who would be interested or you think would be a good candidate, please let us know. Finally, in 2022, we will be using our archives of past village events to start creating promo videos for the upcoming events. So our first one is going to be for the Holiday Stroll, this Holiday Stroll, and that should be out in the next week or so. And that will give residents information on how to partake in this year's festivities. And that's what we've been working on in brief. We're really excited. We have other plans in the works. And again, I just want to give a really, we couldn't do what we do without our staff, Joe Doria, Lorenzo Cordova, all of our production assistants that you see here behind the cameras. Every meeting, they're sometimes very long nights, as you know, and they do it with a smile on their face. You can't tell because they're wearing masks, but they're smiling. And we couldn't do it without them. So if there are any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Colin. We appreciate everything you've done and you know, a lot of the people before you. It's Riverside TV has come a long way.
Yeah.
It's amazing if you go through the history from back when Don Farnham was sitting in the back of a room with a handheld camera to where we've come today, and it hasn't been that long. So.
Yeah, and I stand on the shoulders of giants. You know, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing if it wasn't for them doing what they did. So
thank you very much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. We move on to pending business. First thing is our fiscal 2022 fee updates. Director Johns?
Good evening. Before you tonight is a variety of fee increases. Staff regularly reviews operational costs and fees to make sure that operational costs are covered and in line with surrounding communities. If the board elects to proceed tonight, we will present a resolution with rate adjustments at the December meeting. The following proposed fee increases would go into effect January 1, 2022. Number one, increase the right-of-way bond from $500 to $1,000. Establish a permit for temporary right-of-way use for $50. Increase after-hour or weekend call-out fee for turn-on or off water service from $75 to $100. Adjust police false alarm fees so that any false alarm over 4 per calendar year is $50. Adjust fire false alarm fees so that any over 4 are $250 each. Increase the water rate by $1.50 per unit. Increase the sewer rate by $1.50 per unit. And remove the $30 bi-monthly infrastructure fee. Would the board like me to go into any more detail on any of those items?
Trustees? I just have one. I mean, just the increase of the right-of-way bond from 500 to 1,000, that gets
It gets refunded as long as there's no damage to the parkway.
Okay. And then the last three was the water rate, the sewer rate, and then the removal. That's what we talked about with the 3%. We were trying to keep the average home still the same, and it's basically
Correct.
just the using.
That's based off the discussion from a former meeting.
Okay. My last question, and I don't worry, so the false alarm fees, and then when you had the other villages, it seems like Riverside's monthly monitoring was considerably higher for fire than all of the other villages. And most of them were annual. Ours was the only one that was monthly. Well, Oak Brook is monthly, but it's $20.
I apologize. I believe that to be a typo. It is an annual fee.
Oh, okay. Well, then I feel much better. Okay. Then that's all I had. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. That's all you need from us, Karen?
Correct.
Okay. Secondly is an ordinance providing for multifamily dwelling, mechanical, and common area property inspections within the village of Riverside. Ms. Monroe.
So several months ago, when we were talking about the rental registration program, there was discussion by the board that ended in a desire for both fire and building inspections to be completed in the mechanical areas of multi-unit buildings, so those with 3 units or more that share mechanical, and common spaces. And this would be regardless whether dwellings were rented or owned. So this includes condominium properties. Because the village still has a vested interest in the health and welfare, the safety of all residents, and those with common mechanical utilities are important as well. So this ordinance proposes the inspection for those mechanical areas to be set with a fee of $100. This is an annual inspection that would be conducted alongside the fire inspection. So it would be a building inspector and a fire inspector going out to the property at the same time. And so with approval, this would go into effect in 2022. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Hearing no questions, if I can have a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Evans, second.
I'll second.
Second by trustee Clarity. Any further questions? Hearing none, Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marshauska.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Clarity.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next on our agenda is update on proposed text amendment, accessory structures, permitted uses. Ms. Monroe.
All right, well, thank you. I may ask for any follow-up from trustee Pollock at times if he chooses to add anything. We created this memo as an update. The board requested an update on a discussion of the deferred text amendment related to accessory structures and use standards at about a month ago. And so since that time, trustee Pollock was asked to act as a liaison with staff in evaluating what information we needed to explore as to whether there would be a more comprehensive approach to the text amendment that was before you at one point. We've met a couple of times and arrived at just a few major items that would be reviewed further. And so those include identifying a definition for accessory structures, so it would alter the proposed definition related to allowed uses. The clarifications that we'd look at might be the existing bulk regulations and whether they accommodate alternative uses. The pool, I'll note that the pool house that was included in a list of accessory structures may be addressed with a potential change in the definition. So you're not going to find a discussion of pools specifically called out in this list of things we're talking about. Staff is planning to look at current building design and construction requirements, so determining what structurally would be necessary if there were to be a change to allowed uses in accessory structures. We would refine the language and maybe insert charts that make reading the code a little bit easier to understand and explain. And then we also want to explore options for maybe an updated approach or definition for what home occupation looks like in Riverside. And so essentially the purpose for the memo is just to see if the board thinks that the proposed actions generally align with your expectations or the kind of will of the board for us to pursue these options, and whether there are any other areas to focus on. So I don't know if Trustee Pollock has additional information he wants to add.
Sure. I would just add that the goal is to have, when this does come back to the village board the next time, and I think we're targeting the second meeting in February, the goal is to have some very specific recommendations from me to the rest of the board as to what we want to see the Planning and Zoning Commission pursue and discuss and consider. And to be as specific as we can be in that regard. And I think we're well on our way to doing that. Obviously, when we present that, when I present that to the board, you'll have the opportunity to suggest changes or deletions or additions or whatever. But again, keeping in mind the goal is to have some very specific recommendations from the Planning and Zoning to the Planning and Zoning Commission for them to consider, so that they know exactly, or as best we possibly can, what the board is looking for. I want to thank Francisco and Ashley for helping me with this. They've been a tremendous help, and it's been appreciated.
Thank you, and we appreciate the three of you working on this. I think the only thing, I think you've got it laid out here. The only thing that I worry about is the February 17th. I believe Village Manager Francis has sent us an email today saying we may or may not have a meeting in the second.
Correct. So based on what the schedule is currently looking at, and I believe there may be a board member that has conflict with one of those two meetings. It's Trustee Pollock.
I will not be at the first meeting in February if we have it.
So perhaps we will be canceling the first meeting.
Okay, so we want to keep this at February 17th then. Okay. Is that Trustee Hannan?
Could you refresh my recollection on how we got here? This came out of planning and zoning as a proposed text amendment. Trustee Pollock graciously volunteered to provide some cleanup changes and address certain ambiguities that came up. So it's going to come back to us, and we're going to send it back to planning and zoning? Is that procedurally what we're doing?
Right, because it has to be public hearing again, correct, Mr. Mars?
Yeah, at this point, it's going to be different enough that I think we should have a new public hearing. And that's just a matter of publication. There aren't mailings regarding this particular text amendment.
And this is more of a question than a request. To the extent it's feasible, would it be possible when everything's put together, a red line or compare right between the original and what we have, just so it's easy to track? I mean, I know those can get very cumbersome, and if it gets too cumbersome, I will withdraw that request. But to the extent it's feasible, I think that'd be very helpful.
That's a great suggestion, and we'll plan to prepare that.
Excellent.
Okay, is there anything else? So we will hear back from Ms. Monroe, Mr. Jimenez, and Trustee Pollock, February 17th.
Do we need a motion to table it to then?
No, just, we have enough just based on our discussion.
Okay. So we move on to new business. We have several things in front of us. Resolution authorizing the village manager to waive competitive bidding and execute a sales agreement with Water Products Company to provide water meters manufactured by Capstrup for the upcoming 2022-2024 water meter replacement program. Director Tab and Director Johns.
Thank you. Normally I try to summarize kind of what I have going on here, but I'm going to read the majority of it because there's a lot of good information there. Beginning earlier this year, the village began the process of transitioning from an automatic meter reading system to an advanced meter reading infrastructure system. The first step in the process was the installation of a communication tower at the Public Works facility, which we did this past summer. The second step was to invite meter manufacturers to present in detail what their meters and metering systems have to offer the village of Riverside. Staff took this information and compared it to previously identified priorities sought out when conducting a meter replacement program. The first priority we identified is the expectation that a static water meter, also known as a meter with no moving parts, will maintain its accuracy over the lifetime of the meter. For the purpose of the upcoming meter replacement program, staff has identified that life of the meter to be approximately 20 years. The second priority is that the meter must have a battery capable of lasting between 15 and 20 years. Static water meters utilize a battery to power the technology which measures the flow of water going through the meter itself. The development of battery technology has led to manufacturers warranting their meters between 10 and 20 years depending on the size of the meter. This is important because when the battery dies, the meter or the meter head has to be replaced because they're a sealed unit. The third priority of the program was to capture as much non-revenue water as possible. Non-revenue water is water that the village purchases yet never bills for due to leaks within the infrastructure or the inaccuracy of the meters themselves. The village has experienced unaccounted for water levels of between 16 and 18% of total water purchased over the past few years. With these priorities in mind, staff requested presentations from water meter manufacturers Census, Neptune, Capstrup, and Mueller. These manufacturers were then compared against each other and against their criteria identified as program priorities. Ultimately, Capstrup is being recommended by staff to be the manufacturer of the meter for the upcoming water meter replacement program. Capstrup has had a large European presence as a liquid and gas meter manufacturer. While newer to the American market, staff did have the opportunity to visit Cortland, Illinois, which recently installed their meters and was very impressed. Staff also has spoke with numerous references on their meter replacement program and leak detection software. Capstrup stood out for a number of reasons when compared to the other manufacturers and staff program priorities. One, Capstrup has been manufacturing ultrasonic water meters for over 30 years. They have proven the technology and its ability to measure water with pinpoint accuracy. Capstrup stands by the accuracy of its 5/8 through 1-inch water meters with a 20-year full replacement warranty and provides a 10-year full replacement warranty on its meters 1.5 inches and larger. So basically, if a meter tests out of range and its age is within the specified time frame, it will be warranted free of charge. Capstrup, along with its distributor water products company, will offer an industry-best 20-year non-prorated warranty on the batteries in the 5/8 through 1-inch range meter and a 10-year non-prorated warranty for meters 1.5 inches and larger. The majority of the meters in town, actually 97.5% of them, are in the 5/8 through 1-inch range. This means that if a battery dies at any point during the anticipated 20-year life of the program, it will be replaced free of charge. No other manufacturer and distributor offer this length of warranty. Capstrup water meters have an integrated ultrasonic acoustic leak detection capable of detecting service line and main line leaks located within the system. Capstrup is currently the only manufacturer with this integrated capability. This technology will allow staff to determine leaks within the system prior to them surfacing. Many smaller leaks go undetected because they are not big enough to make it to the surface. Early leak detection is particularly important in identifying large leaks that find their way into nearby sewers. Capstrup water meters have an integrated transmitter in the meter itself, foregoing the need to install a transmitter on the outside of the house. So basically, if you look at the outside of your house right now, you have a little off-white box, and that's the radio transmitter. These meters have it built into the meter head itself, so the outside register would be removed from the home. Having said that, not having to install an exterior transmitter will cut the labor in half during the exchange program, because normally we use two guys. We have an inside guy and we have an outside guy. Just if it's rainy outside, we don't want to track the mud inside. So we have teams of two on a traditional install. For this one, we'd only be utilizing one person. Staff acknowledges that the Capstrup recommendation does not have the lowest capital outlay cost. However, Capstrup is the lowest total water meter replacement program when factoring in the annual hosting and infrastructure maintenance costs over the life of the 20-year program, as seen in the chart on your board packet if you have it in front of you. Some additional long-term cost savings will be realized in a number of ways. The Capstrup meter has a full non-prorated replacement warranty should the battery fail, like I alluded to earlier. This means that between years 15 and 20, if the water meter were to become inoperable due to a dead battery, the meter would be replaced free of charge. This is a cost that the resident would typically be responsible for once the meter is out of warranty. If this scenario were to occur with another manufacturer, residents would be responsible for the meter costs once the meter is out of warranty. These back-end costs, without factoring in the inflationary component, would far exceed the additional upfront costs realized in the initial Capstrup purchase of meters 1 inch and smaller. In addition, staff anticipates additional cost savings through the utilization of the integrated acoustic leak detection built into every water meter, 5/8 through to 1 inch size. The village's non-revenue water loss on an annual basis costs approximately $210,000. This is money that could be spent on other water and sewer projects to benefit the residents. A particular component of non-revenue water loss are those leaks that drain directly into sewers. For example, earlier this year, the water department had a large leak that found its way into a sewer, going unrealized for 17 hours. This leak resulted in a loss of over 600,000 gallons. It was only by chance that staff identified its location as soon as they did. This recent leak is a perfect use case scenario for integrated leak detection built into the water meters. This leak could have been found sooner if the Capstrup meter had been installed at the time of the break. I will turn over the balance of this to Director Johns.
Presented before you tonight is a meter replacement cost that each resident would pay. One of the things we would like further board input for is for those that have paid for a meter replacement due to a failed meter in the last 10 years, would the board like us to prorate the cost of the meter? Presented before you are 5 different options in a supplemental color-coded chart. Would the board like me to go through those options individually, or does the board have a preference on any of them?
I think it's probably best if you would, just for the record, if you would go through them, please.
Sure. Option 1 would be that the village 100% pays for a new meter cost if the meter has paid for a new meter in the past 10 years. Option 2 is a tiered approach where the village pays 100% of a new meter cost if the customer has paid for the meter in the past 3 years, and 50% if the customer has paid for a meter in year 4 through 6. Option 3, the village pays 75% of new meter cost in year 1 through 3, and 50% in year 4 through 6. Option 4, the village pays 100% if they have paid for a new meter in year 1, and that decreases 10% every year to the past 10 years. Option 5 is the meter replacement would be 100% resident funded, and the village would not be contributing to it.
And then option 6 was, which we all, I think, agreed on the last time, was the consumer assistant economic hardship. I think there was a consensus that we all agreed that that was definitely what we wanted to do. So trustees, Trustee Hannan?
Do we have cost estimates for any of these options? I mean, it's
That's-
kind of difficult to decide what works best without knowing what the cost to the village or what the cost
On
to,
this page,
which,
sorry, it's titled Water Meter Proration Options. It's right after that yellow page on the top of your pile, Trustee Hannan.
got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So this is not totally exact. This assumes that we would roll out 100% of the meters in year 1, and this is a 3-year meter replacement program, so there will be some adjustments based on what year the village has scheduled your meter replacement.
And I'm sorry, what, if, so an average cost to a resident, if we do option 5, is how much for the resident?
So if we, sorry, this is an aggregate of how many meters of each size were replaced in the past 10 years. So if we look at the cost sheet per resident in the agenda history sheet,
Yep.
a 5/8 meter would be $293. Sorry, a 5/8 through 3/4 inch meter is $393.
And is that on average what an average home would take?
I think 97%.
97.5% of homes in Riverside utilize a meter from 5/8 through 1 inch.
Okay, so that's, I'm sorry, $300?
$300 to $350, because that 1 inch is also in that 97.5%.
One thing we did, and I apologize for not bringing this up sooner, obviously 100% support the consumer hardship assistance. When we talked about our vehicle sticker, we had a special program for disabled veterans, which I think was very much appreciated, and I think maybe something we want to consider here. The other thing, as I look at the $350, obviously that amount, depending on which option we choose, could hit seniors harder than families or other residents. So just want to see if that is something as well, and I think this can be leafed into whatever option the board wants to pick through, but I just hate to have this $350 hit a senior on a fixed income, and they don't meet any of the criteria to get any of these discounts.
I think there's two different options presented before you tonight. One is the proration option, which would be for anyone, whether they have economic hardship or not. And then the economic assistance program would be offered to everyone, whether they have had a recent meter replacement in the past 10 years.
Is it fair to say that everyone in this village has paid for a meter in the last 10 years?
No.
So to provide some background information, because I think maybe some of it's getting lost here. When meters, for whatever reason, ceased to work, starting in 2012, we started installing a newer meter, okay? And since 2012, up until currently, people have paid for the new meter because the existing meter's out of warranty. And the village's standard policy is when the meter's out of warranty, the homeowner covers the cost of it. So this chart here from 2012 through 2021 are those people that have replaced an existing meter with a newer meter. So this proration option for those people that have paid for a meter since 2012, depending on what option is chosen, they would either, receive a newer meter free of charge if they've had a recent install, all the way to option 5, which would in essence make the homeowner responsible for the new meter regardless of the year that they had their recent meter installed. So the costs are based on the replacement costs of the new meter and based on the size that was installed in that particular year. So that's where the costs come from in aggregate. It's the total of meters that we've replaced since 2012 multiplied by the anticipated new meter charge, and that's where we get these totals at the bottom. So taking that into account, it's been broken down into different proration options. Option 1, the village in essence covers all those meters that were replaced due to warranty over the last 9 years. All the way through option 5 is which the homeowner is responsible for the entire cost of the brand new meter, regardless of when they've had a newer meter installed, whether it was 2012 or 2021. And then the options 2 through 4 in the middle, it's a variation of those two. So that's one talking point, and then the other one, or option 6, would be the the assistance for those people that you had just previously mentioned across the village regardless of these tables. So it's kind of two different topics here. One is the proration of those folks that have recently installed meters. One is an assistance program for the entire village based on, economic hardship.
I think we should at least start with the easy part, and that's the economic hardship. Do we all have a consensus that we wanted to do that? And is there any issue about adding disabled veterans to that? Okay, so we'll do that. So that's the easy part.
So the criteria that I outlined in my memo was to qualify for economic hardship. The household income would have to be approximately 200% of the local or federal poverty limit. So to receive the assistance, the resident would have to have previously applied and been granted to economic assistance program that are similar but not limited to the Township Assistance Program, the Temporary Assistance to Needy Families, or TAMF, Aid to the Aged, Blind, or Disabled, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance, or SNAP, or CETA programs such as LIWOP or LIHEAP. If the board is supportive of this strategy, a resolution of this procedure would be presented in January of '22. I will also add disabled veterans to that list.
Perfect. Okay, I think, yes, Trustee Pollock.
So I'm looking at this water meter proration options, and it gives a clear picture, I think, of the percentage or how the costs relative to the five options. But what I'm not understanding, is this inform us in any way what the exact or approximate cost of implementing this program will be? Or are you just simply saying if we had, I'm not understanding why in option one, where the village pays for everything, it's $86,000. And in option 4, or 2, 3, and 4, that $86,000 is just divided between the two, when I know that, what you just said, that not everybody would even, those with meters over 10 years old, no matter which option we take, are going to have to pay 100% if we prorate it, right? So I'm really just not understanding what these numbers, what is the data that these numbers were developed from?
So the numbers themselves, we went back to between 2012 and 2021. We took a total by year and by meter size. We calculated the total number of meters and then computed those against the direct replacement costs of the new meters themselves. So either from a village's standpoint or a resident standpoint, this is what it would cost either party to replace their current meter. And then they're, of course, prorated off of what Director John read previously in the summary.
So this is looking at everyone, if we pick an option where we prorate it, 2, 3, or 4, we know that we know what meters are 10 years or less. And this is just saying that of those meters that are 10 years old or newer, this is what it'll cost to replace those.
Correct.
This is the maximum it would cost us.
Right. So really option 1 and 5, if we chose those options, those numbers are going to be much higher because we're going to, so it's excluding all the meters that are over 10 years old. And if we pay for it or they pay for all those, it adds to these numbers.
So the meters that are over 10 years old, the resident will cover the cost of those regardless. These options in front of you are just for those meters that were replaced in the last 10 years due to them being out of warranty.
So the assumption in all this is that everyone who has a meter that's more than 10 years old is going to have to pay to replace their meter.
Correct.
No matter what.
Right. So as opposed to
I see. Yeah, yeah.
approaching the people that have replaced the meter within the last 10 years where everyone else has not. You know, that's where the proration comes into play.
I understand it now, thank you. And I guess I would start by just saying that given what I see here, and option 4 seems to be the fairest, I'm assuming that staff wouldn't have presented that if it was going to be difficult to administer, but.
No, I think a sliding scale would be created each year of the replacement program. So we would know before scheduling those appointments if those households had had a meter replacement in the past 10 years.
Yeah, I lean to option 4 because it seems to be the fair way of doing it. This fund, the water fund, needs all the revenue it can get right now. So I'm always hesitant to have the fund pay for something new like this, but the fairness part of it overrides that to me, that if I got a new meter 2 years ago, I shouldn't have to pay for a whole new meter again. So that's why it makes sense to me.
Trustee Gallegos?
I was also going to suggest option number 4 as well.
Okay. Trustee Evans?
I like option 4, but I also want to talk about option 1. I feel that, at a certain point, we're really pushing it with how much the water costs in this town and how much we're asking for the residents to keep kicking in. And the only reason I would like us to consider option 1 is because I can see that with installation of these new meters, based on the non-revenue water loss, our annual water loss, it looks like it costs us $210,000. And so if we just replaced all of the water meters, wouldn't it pay for itself in a year?
So the maximum number of meters we can replace, because we're doing it in-house, we're going to be hiring part-timers to replace our water meters. And the maximum we can do, we anticipate, is between 750 and 1,000 meters a year. So it's not necessarily feasible for us to replace all 3,100 in 1 year.
I see.
So that $210,000 that it costs the village in non-revenue water, we can't necessarily capture that all. It's going to be over the course of 3 years, just because of manpower.
But is it, oh, go ahead, sorry.
The other thing I would add about the $210,000 water loss is that water loss needs to be identified by Public Works, and then they need to go out and repair all of those before we'll see that savings.
Right.
So it won't just happen right away with the meter replacement program, but it will give Public Works a lot better map to figure out exactly where these leaks are happening and how to fix them.
So right now, we lose water due to the inaccuracies of the mechanical meters in the homes. The current meter, short of these folks here, they have it's a mechanical meter. There's moving parts in them. And as they age, the gears inside of them, they wear. And as they wear in to benefit the homeowner. So the accuracy of those meters are probably low 90s, especially on the low flow end of them. So assuming we can replace all the meters at one time, in theory, we should be getting, roughly 5% savings on that $210,000, just from the meter efficiency. Now, with the leak detection capability of these new meters, we'll identify the leaks depending on what side, we'll fix them all as soon as we can. We'll try to gauge the larger ones, we'll hit those, but we still have to go dig them up. It's not, it's not a magic bullet. We have to seek them out. Even though we're going to have a lot of assistance in finding them now, we still have to dig them up and replace them.
How many years are we anticipating this will take?
The meter replacement program is over the course of 3 years.
3 years. And just for clarity, these options are only for the people that have bought a meter in the last 10 years, which is $86,000 of a $1 million program. So it's only 10%, right? It's 1/10 of the meters out there fall within these.
Right.
So by saying the village will pay 100%, we're only paying 100% of the people that bought a meter in the last 10 years, which is only a tenth of the program.
Correct.
That would be like an argument, wouldn't it be an argument to just go ahead and do it?
Well, I'm just saying that that's only gonna affect the tenth of the people in town. I just want to make sure that when you say
Yeah.
that, you don't mean replacing all the meters for all the people,
Yeah,
just the
okay.
people that bought it, that had a meter in the last 10 years.
Yeah, we have roughly 3,100 accounts, and this is representative of 300 and,
Right.
you know.
So it's a $1 million program to replace these meters, basically. Okay.
I'm good with option 4.
Okay. Trustee Pollock?
I just want to follow up on option 1. I don't like option 1 because I don't think it's fair to people who've paid for their meters. You know, how do you answer the question? Someone says, my neighbor's got a meter that's 10 years old, they're getting a free meter for new. My meter's 11 years old and I'm paying $300. How's that fair? And I also would remind everyone of the concept of this fund being an enterprise fund, that it pays for itself, that any costs that are incurred are paid for by the fund, and the fund is funded by residents and businesses. So I just, that's why I didn't like option 1. And I don't like option 5 for some of the same reasons, as it just doesn't seem fair.
Trustee, yes?
Getting back to Doug, your enterprise fund point, isn't there like an initiative that's been passed down by the state that we have to work on lead water line replacement at some point? I mean, I am a little bit concerned about, I mean, it's a great idea. I would love to be able to give everybody free water meters. I would love it, but just with the idea that some greater water-related expenses are going to be coming down the pike, I'm not sure where these, where it is appropriate to make a cutoff. I mean, I appreciate and would be personally a little upset if I had just purchased a new water meter within the last 2 or 3 years, only to find out I have to buy another one, especially during the economic hardship times that have been imposed by this pandemic. It's been a little weird for some families. But by the same token, it is an enterprise fund, and we do need to plan for the future. So, a 10-year-old water meter, I'm agreeing with Doug that perhaps maybe that's a little outside the bounds of where we should be allocating those resources.
So give me a tier, what tier are you thinking?
Ugh.
Because I have a 4 and I have a 4.
Yeah, I think we should pay for 100% of the cost where the customer has paid for a water meter in the last 3 years. So that would be, either 2, 3, or 4. But, I'm less certain the further out in time we get. And I mean, please convince me one way or the other, but I am concerned about the long-term costs that are going to be built to this enterprise fund.
For argument's sake, under option 4, I mean, we don't know how many meters are in each of these different categories, but if you have a meter that's 9 to 10 years old, you're basically going to get a credit for $29, $30. So it's really, it's only the people in the first 3 or 4. So I think we're spending a lot of time about the 30s and the 50s. So can you shoot me a 2, 3, 4?
I guess I would lean towards 4.
Okay, we have 3 4s. And I move over to Trustee Hannan.
Trustee Marshazga had me convinced for option 2 or 3, so I'd like to read the tape, and
To 2 or 3, I just.
I agree with the premise you made that, how far back are we going to go? 6 years sounds about right. So I think the idea of, if you've replaced your meter in the last, I like option 2. I mean, if you've replaced it in the last 3 years, you get the freebie. If it's after that, up to 6 years, you get half. There's something inherently fair about that. If you're at the 6, 7, 8 year, you're probably at the last end of the meter anyway. So there's an uncomfortability about going all the way out to 10.
Okay. So we have a 2 and we have we have a,
I'm
so we
going
got
back
2
to
2s and 2 4s. And we're moving on to the last 2.
President Valerie, if I may, I
Sure.
just want to suggest the logic, for me at least, behind option 4 is that you assume that, let's say we just prorated this, that you pay a certain amount every year for your meter replacement. And let's say you pay $30 a year for that $300 meter over 10 years, or you pay it up front. That option 4 captures that. So you got a meter 2 years ago, you've gotten $60 of use from that meter. And so you only have to pay $200, or that's prorated, that's subtracted from it. To me, if you cutting it off at 3 or 6 years or whatever seems arbitrary. I mean, what about the guy who's 1 year older and he pays more or pays substantial, guy who's got a 3-year-old meter pays 0. The guy who's got a 4-year-old meter pays significantly more, not just that prorated amount more. It just doesn't seem fair to me.
Trustee Evans? Trustee Clarity?
I agree with comments earlier made by Trustee Evans that I do have concerns about the cost of water. I understand the program. I am concerned that we're asking people to pay for something that will cost them more in water. And I understand it's for accuracy and the long-term goal here, but I just want to go on record and say I think our residents struggle with this. As it relates to the people who have bought a meter in the last 10 years, I think we're dealing with shades of gray here. It sounds like a small percentage, and I think we're getting into further shades of gray between 2 and 4. Candidly, I don't feel strongly between 2 and 4, but I would give a slight edge to 4 for the reasons that Trustee Pollock set forth to me, that if the staff is comfortable that they can administer this without an Herculean burden, it seems reasonable to me to phase it out over 10 years. If someone spent $300 on it and they've gotten 8 years of use out of it, that tiering seems fair to me.
Trustee Evans?
How long do are these new meters expected to last?
20 years.
Oh. Yeah, because I think most people don't realize that they're ever going to have to replace their meters. And I think this is probably going to be a surprise.
The last program started in 2004.
So 17 years ago.
Hmm.
Okay, I don't remember, I replaced my meter,
Yeah.
I can't remember when it was, but it was probably more than 10 years.
Yeah, the older mechanical meters, they don't last as long in general due to the inaccuracies because of the moving parts as opposed to the solid state meters that they have out now. So that's why they're able to offer the 20-year accuracy on the meters.
And again, this only represents 10% of the population. Okay. So I think we're circling around option number 4. Am I correct in that circle? Okay. So then if I could, can I ask for a motion and a second?
Motion made.
Motion by Trustee Gallegos, second?
Second.
Yes, Mr. Yates.
I have a comment.
Sure, please.
My name is Dale Yates. I live on Groveland Avenue in Riverside. This is the first I've heard about it, about this meter thing. It's kind of news to me. I just have a couple questions. It seems to me you're asking, if I understand this correctly, you're asking residents to pay for water meters indirectly in some manner. So when the house was first built, it was a new house, you put the meter in and so forth. you're technically a village that's sent, like a utility company. It's your meter, and you're selling a product. So I don't know why you were asking residents to pay for water meters when for a product you're selling. Gas company doesn't do it. Edison doesn't do it. I mean, there's no oversight on your end here. That's the problem. There's no utility commission that can oversight the water or whatever, but you're selling a product. So why you're asking people to pay for a meter that's kind of self-serving to your end, because it's something I understand that they'll be able to read from outside. You won't have to go in the house, or the staffing would be less, and blah, 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 blah. I think you have to kind of think this a little bit. I think people should have a bigger voice as to whether or not this is a good idea for them. Maybe talk to them later on, but this is all news to me.
We've had the meters on the agenda we started talking this in the budget process.
How long?
We started talking about this in the budget process at least three meetings ago.
Well, okay, I mean, I don't watch everything like that, but I don't know if this was in the news, in an e-flash or whatever. We're putting meters in your house. This is what I'm saying. There's lots of people in this town that don't come to meetings and don't have that luxury of doing that, especially senior citizens and low-income people. So, I mean, this is a big effect on them. I mean, if you're talking about a $200-300 charge for someone to pay, I don't think that's right. You're a utility company. Any way you look at it. You sell water. It's your meter.
President Valerie?
Yes,
I feel the need to respond a little bit.
Any questions?
I'm sorry, no questions. We're not a utility company. We are a consumer-owned utility. The owners of this water system are the users of the system. If the person who is creating the cost isn't paying for it, then their neighbors are. There's no outside money coming into this. It's more of a co-op, I guess you could say, than it is a business. It's certainly not a business where we're selling a product. It is a consumer-owned utility, water utility, that we just need to distribute the cost fairly amongst the users, the owners of the company, of the utility.
And the other thing that should be noted is that this, I mean, I don't know how many times I've had, a person come in and say, I just got a $2,000 water bill. I've never used more than, $118 a year. Now I got or $118 a month. Now I got a $2,000 water bill. These new meters take care of that problem, because now the resident can see their water usage on their smartphone, correct?
Once the complete,
Once it's done.
once everything's installed throughout the town, that option will be available.
And
But as of right now, so even in year one, staff will be able to pull a report on a daily basis that will have red flagged addresses that will tell us suspected pipe burst or suspected leak. And we will be able to reach out to the residents and notify them, the day after it occurs, as opposed to currently 60 days potentially after it occurs, because we read every 2 months.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, one leaky basement toilet in a house will cost 3 times more than this water meter will cost. Give or take, because I mean, see people that come in with a leaky, it's like $700-800
It
meter.
is for, we've had somebody that flushed a toilet, went on vacation, came home a week later, and their toilet was still running, and it was a $1,000 water bill. We've had pipes freeze, vacant home, property owner's not aware of it, and their water bill was vastly higher than that. So the technology within the meter, along with the AMI system that we're implementing with a fixed tower, will allow us to assist residents in avoiding high water bills to the best that we can.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yates, I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, I'm saying, let me ask you another question. If a water meter breaks, and do you charge a person for putting in a new water meter in on your end, or how does that work?
Under these meters, no, they will not be charged.
Short of neglect.
Yes?
If the homeowner were to allow the pipes to freeze, the meter pops, they bang the meter, they hit some, you know.
If the meter was faulty and broke on your end, do you charge the owner for that meter? Is what I'm asking.
No.
Okay, well, that's my point.
It's a warranty.
So it's your equipment. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's your equipment. This is the point here. It doesn't belong to the owner, it belongs to you. You're the one monitoring the usage on that equipment and everything. It's your advantage to have that meter in that house.
And we belong to the resident.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you might want to think about that one.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Yates. We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Yes, Ms. Johns.
I'm sorry, for the Customer Assistance Program for Economic Hardship, I was to add disabled veterans. That program that we did for vehicle stickers also included POWs. While no one has applied for that, would you also like me to include POWs?
I would, yes.
Sure. Yes. So we still have a motion. I believe it was by trustee Gallegos.
Seconded.
Second by trustee Evans. Any further discussion?
I'm sorry, Doug had seconded already.
Oh,
Yes, yes, I
Did
did.
you? I'm sorry. Seconded by trustee Pollock. Any further discussions? Hearing none, Ms. Haley, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marshawska.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan. Aye. Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Clarity.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Johns and Director Tab, for all the work. And these different options weren't easy, and so thank you very much for giving us all these. Appreciate it. Second item is we have an ordinance approving and designating 214 Scottswood Road as a Village of Riverside local historic landmark. Ms. Monroe.
Thank you. So the Preservation Commission responded to a request by the resident at 214 Scottswood. They held a public hearing at their October 14th meeting. So prior to that point in time, they had preliminary discussion about the opportunity to landmark the property and officially heard the residents' request at that meeting. They did recommend approval of the landmarks designation with a unanimous vote of 7-0. As for the petition at Scottswood, the commission reviewed the information. The application was supplemented by a nice letter from the Historic Commission recommending approval of the property, as well as information that was provided by the homeowners research into this property. It's known as the household of the Rice family, which contributed in a variety of ways within the Riverside community and the greater Chicago region, as well as some national ties. They evaluated 5 of 6 possible criteria as appropriate to attribute to the property at 214 Scottswood, and those are included within the ordinance presented to the board for consideration. So they supplemented the materials with various photographs and architectural features. As the only thing that was not included was an architect of note. So that was the only criteria, which they didn't have information. A lot of properties within Riverside that are landmarked do have that information, but there were other, like I said, characteristics and attributes of this property that made it deemed appropriate to landmark as a historical property of note. So if you have questions, please let me know, or Francisco also attended that hearing and can answer questions.
Thank you, Ms. Monroe. Is there any questions for Ms. Monroe? Okay. Can I ask for a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by trustee Clarity, second.
Make the second.
Second by trustee Gallegos. Any further questions? Thank you, Ms. Haley. If you'd please call the roll.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marshawska.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Clarity.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next on our agenda is an ordinance approving a side yard variation for this construction of a porch 3-season room at 178 Maplewood. Francisco.
Good evening. Let's see. All right. Yeah, so the property at 178 Maplewood, the homeowners, the current homeowners are proposing to enclose an existing rear deck at the property. Currently, the property sits with the Des Plaines River to the west. The Park Place is to the south. And just kind of the current layout of the lot and the placement of the house along with the river kind of create the need for this variance. As it currently sits, the house, it encroaches into the side setback. The required side setbacks are 17 feet. The current house is 15 feet. The deck kind of framing that is there that they are proposing to enclose encroaches into the side setback by 2 feet. It's 15 feet from that southern property line. The proposal wouldn't create any sort of detriment to the surroundings. Because the way that house is, it's elevated above Park Place. It has a fence on that southern property line. There's some trees there that kind of block where the enclosure would be. And then the river, obviously nobody kind of it's just the river and then the street. Even from the corner, if you're standing on the corner, you wouldn't be able to see the proposed enclosure. And then if you're driving along, it's kind of the same thing, just because of where the house is there on that, just kind of elevated on the street.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Francisco? Trustee Hannan.
Just so I understand the orientation, I'm looking at the plat of survey.
Yes.
And where the deck and other items are purported to be, that's the river side?
That is Park Place. That's the street that kind of goes west and then it goes south. It's kind of like an L shape.
So
the river is to the, it's going to be where your right hand is right currently. That's the river.
Right here? Mm-hmm. Got it, okay.
And we have Mr. Montgomery and the architect, Mr. Randall. If there's any questions for them, or if you would like to say anything?
We would just, obviously like to thank the board for taking the time to review this variance. We bought the home in April of this year. Many of you probably know it was owned by Mr. Louis Schauer, very prominent gentleman in the, and we're just trying to bring it back to kind of its glory. Where we are putting this particular enclosed was already a screened-in porch with a roof. We did have to take it down, so I know it does not show in those pictures, but it was a safety hazard when we bought the property. And so we're just, again, looking to kind of get it back and as part of a process to bring this home back to its original glory when it was built in the 80s. So, we don't have any neighbors to any of the sides. We have a street, a river, and then with our setback to their neighbors, this again, as Mr. Chairman has said, there's really no view from it. There are some pictures that are involved with that fence. I know that fence shows that it's open. That fence was taken down by a border tree about a month or two ago, and we're working through getting that fence replaced as well. So that fence will be put back up when it's there. So again, Nicole and I appreciate you taking the time for this variance, and we ask for you to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery.
I have a little question. The proposed enclosed porch, is this the same footprint as the one that was existing when you purchased the house?
I believe it is very close to that. It'll be extended a little bit along the back side of the home itself, moving away from the street. But for the most part, it's adding just a small section for a porch to walk around the outside of it.
Does it increase the encroachment of the prior?
It does not.
It does not.
Any other questions? Trustee Pollak.
Yes, a question for Francisco, actually. I know that the Plan Commission focused on the configuration of the property and the house. Could you tell us a little bit about, again, you covered it a little bit, but what did the commission see as the hardship relative to the configuration of the layout of the property?
So it was, So it was a few things. It was the shape of the lot itself with the various, it's not your typical rectangular kind of lot where it has very defined front, rear, and side setbacks. This one, I believe, it's got, it has the rear setback with the river. It has the two sides kind of where the lot lines kind of cross there at that angle. So that was one, was the shape of the lot itself. Two was the placement of the structure itself. It already encroaches, even without the deck. The house itself already encroaches into that required 17 feet setback from property lines. And then also just the river itself, because I believe the survey has the property line ending in the center line of the river, which is kind of unusual in that they do have that piece of property, but it doesn't really add anything to it doesn't help the homeowners, just because you can't really build anything back there, even if they wanted to, whatever it was. And then also just, Park Place itself as well. It's just, it's right at the southern end of that property there.
Okay, and then remind me again, what is the required, they're varying the side and the rear setback. What is the required and what is the proposed on each of those?
So for the side setback with what they're proposing, the required is 17 feet with the current kind of frame deck that the homeowner spoke about that is there is 15 feet. And then if they are granted the variance and they go with the enclosure and that kind of little walkout area that the homeowner talked about, the setback would be 13 feet. So it would encroach 4 feet into the required setback.
And then is there a rear yard setback variation as well?
No, it would just be the
okay.
side. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I got to watch the meeting, Francisco. You did a wonderful job presenting it. Welcome to the idiosyncrasies of Riverside lots. It's very interesting, and you did a good job.
Thank you.
Putting it out and laying it out for the commissioners. I know they appreciated it. If I guess.
Well, I just have another question. With respect to that first criteria about conditions and hardship, I understand the unique conditions of this particular piece of property, but does the hardship need to be separate from the conditions of the property?
I believe that the conditions of the property is what caused that hardship.
What is the hardship, though?
The lot, the placement of the house itself, the fact that the house wasn't, it's a 30-year-old house, so the current homeowners didn't, put the house there, I guess purposely.
Right, but isn't that like a condition? I mean, and does the condition need to be separate from the hardship, or because I understand that all of those things are unusual.
Mr. Mars?
So perhaps, Mr.
The conditions cause the hardship, so that's how it works, is that
And what's the hardship? It says that it's supposed to be different from an inconvenience, a mere inconvenience.
Right, so the finding was it was difficult to comply with the zoning code requirements due to the unusual nature of having the lot line go out to the river, the five-sided weird shape of this lot, and this placement of the house, which is way in the back and kind of in a corner, were all found to be unusual conditions, which created a hardship in terms of compliance when you want to do porches, decks, those kinds of things.
And I would assume the reason it's set where it is because of the river itself, because the river does flood over there. So they brought it back into the highest point of the property.
Yeah.
Right.
Is this more like, because they talked about restoring something that had been there, which, is that relevant at all to the?
Not to the hardship aspect of it. From a common sense standpoint, just saying, well, it was there before and we're restoring it. They don't have an absolute right to restore it, but the fact that it was there before and apparently did not create any issues, you can take that into consideration for some of the other standards.
Trustee Pollock.
Yes. Trustee Marshowski's question reminded me of something I wanted to comment on, and that's the hardship. I think that, well, first I want to go back to 2016 when the zoning ordinance was amended and the findings of fact for variation were amended to specifically call out that a non-conforming building could be justification or could cause a hardship that justifies a variation. I think in this case, the location of that non-conforming building already encroaching into the setback and the lot configuration create circumstances that make it difficult and make it a hardship to comply with the zoning ordinance, because what they're doing is quite reasonable. Everybody, should be able to put a deck on the back of their house or whatever, but it's only for the fact that the house is non-conforming that it's not practical to do that. And so I think that should be in the record that we're relying on, in part at least, on that fact that it's a non-conforming building, that the non-conformity of it creates the hardship as well as the configuration of the property. And then related to, no, I'm sorry, that's it. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Pollock.
I appreciate that, Doug. Thank you.
Trustee Hannan.
I just want to, I was struggling with hardship, and I think Trustee Pollock articulated it best on why there is a hardship. You have an existing nonconformity, and that's not something that was clear from the record from planning and zoning. I'm sure it was mentioned, it's not popping out at me, but I think it's very important to reference that as our reference point on why the votes for yes may come, because I think it's critical that there is this unique fact. There is an existing non-conforming structure. It's not just the uniqueness of the lot. There's a lot of unique lots in Riverside, but it's as Trustee Pollock pointed out.
Thank you, Trustee Hannan. There's no further questions. If I can have a motion, please.
Motion made.
Motion by Trustee Gallego, second.
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Clarity. Is there any further questions? Hearing none. Ms. Haley, if you'd please call the roll.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marshowska.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Clarity.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, Francisco. Appreciate it. Next item is a resolution authorizing the village president to execute a First Amendment to an intergovernmental agreement by and between the Village of Riverside and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago for design, construction, operation, and maintenance of the Groveland Avenue levee improvements. Manager Francis, please.
Thank you, President Ballerine. This is an administrative item. The original agreement was approved by the village board on December 6, 2018. Since that time, MWRD has submitted $269,331 directly to Army Corps of Engineers on behalf of the village for the design phase of this project. The maximum funding that MWRD will provide for this project is $2,506,028. Army Corps revised their processes and will now only allow payments to be made by the non-federal sponsor of the project, which is the Village of Riverside. Another organization may not make these payments on behalf of the non-federal sponsor, so based on these changes, MWRD has provided the village with the attached amendment for board approval. MWRD will make future payments to the village, and then the village will then pay Army Corps of Engineers directly.
So basically what we're doing is we're the funnel for the money to come from MWRD to the Army Corps.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Yates, do you have a question?
I have a comment.
I'm sorry?
I have a comment.
Please.
Dale Yates, Groveland Avenue, Riverside, Illinois. Basically, I've been here before. I've submitted a couple suggestions and so forth to the village trustees. Had some response, and some response, no response. So I'm here again to ask if the amendment, what it appears to me, is a commitment on the village to move forward with the project on the levee on Groveland Avenue. Is that true?
Well, it's a commitment that we're going to continue with the design phase, yes.
Continue with it. As far as the payment going from, to you from from ACE or from whatever, that doesn't bother me at all. But so the village is committed to do the project
We're committed to the design phase, which is
Okay.
where we're at, yes.
within a time frame. Within a time frame, you have a time frame when to commit to finish it or start it.
I wish we did. We are dealing with the federal government. You spoke with the Army Corps at the last.
That is correct. So Army Corps is
I
working.
can't hear. I have trouble hearing, and when you guys talk through the mask, it's very difficult for me here. I have tinning. It's ringing in my ears.
Okay, I will do my best. We've met with Army Corps of Engineers. They have started doing the additional engineering for the design. That's the part of the phase of which we're at right now. So there isn't a final design to be discussed by the village board at this time. And I don't have a final date as to when the design will be completed for presentation to the community or to the village board.
Well, the question that also comes up on the design issue, which has been before the board before from the various commissions in the village about the various designs. And I don't know if there will ever be a consensus of what you're going to approve there. It seems to me like it's kind of pie in the sky type arrangement where you're looking for a lot of money putting onto a concrete wall. That's what they're proposing from Army Corps of Engineers. So if you think you're going to improve upon that, I mean, the village, there is another unknown cost that you're going to incur to put that in. My biggest fear is there's going to be cost overruns and unforeseen costs on something here, basically even before we even get into the design issue. So I don't know where you stand on that, but I mean, it's the design has not been approved, or you've got no input from Preservation or the Landscape Commission or Olmsted or who else is looking at this.
Well, we have had input from Preservation, so we're moving forward, and we will
Okay.
continue to move forward.
Okay.
Hearing no other questions, if I can have a motion, please.
Motion made.
Motion by Trustee Gallegos, second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Pollock. Anything else from the
Are you going
trustees?
forward? I'm not done. I know you want to get rid of it, but I mean, this is another problem. I think, if for lack of what I'm saying here, I'm the only one here that is commenting on the levy. So far, I see no other people, and I understand your hesitancy about answering questions and stuff like that when there isn't a lot of input from the outside.
We're not hesitant to answer questions. I mean,
Okay, but I'm just saying,
moving
well,
forward
here,
as fast as we possibly
I asked, one of
can.
my letters to you, Joe, and to the trustees, I asked that you send a survey out to the people on West Avenue to see what their input is as to whether or not they're going to approve an easement or not. There's a big issue right there. If the easement isn't going to fly, are you going to continue with the program down Groveland Avenue?
So.
You don't know.
President Valerie.
Trustee
if I may,
Pollock, please.
What's before us is simply a kind of a bureaucratic red tape modification that has no bearing on the substance of this
Can you
project.
talk into the microphone? I can't hear you.
What we're considering tonight is just a kind of a bureaucratic modification to the process of making payments in the design phase. It does not get to the substance of this. If Mr. Yates has questions about the status of the program, I think the appropriate thing for him to do is to contact staff, and staff will provide all the answers that he needs. But all we're
Okay.
doing here tonight is a simple amendment that changes the payment process.
And we do have a motion and a second on that simple process. Ms. Haley, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marshaska.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Clarity.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Yates, we will keep you informed.
I mean, all right, you voted on it, so that's going to fly.
It's
So
our
my
goal.
my next question is,
Wait, hold on.
okay,
We move on to a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a vendor agreement with the Community and Economic Development Association of Cook County regarding the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Grant Program. Director Johns.
Good evening. Before you tonight is a resolution to join the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program, or LIWAP. This is a new program offered to Cook County residents who are experiencing economic hardships to assist with their water bill payments. The maximum benefit to each household is $1,500 and may be received once annually. To participate in this program, the village must adopt a resolution to join this program to be able to offer it to our residents. Are there any questions about this program?
Any questions, trustees? Okay, hearing none. If I can have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Trustee Evans, second
Second.
by Trustee Gallegos. Ms. Haley, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marshazga.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Clarity.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And we move on to the last item of our new business, is that's an ordinance authorizing execution of a property purchase and sales contract and the sale of real property located at 2710 South Harlem Avenue, Riverside, Illinois, to 2720 Harlem Avenue, LLC. Manager Francis.
Thank you, President Ballerine. The village purchased this property at 2710 South Harlem Avenue on May 17th, 2017. Since that time, the village has remediated that property, and actually before the village acquired the property, we created a business district in which that property now is located. The Harlem Avenue Business District Number 1 was created and approved by the village board on February 16th, 2017. And the board later passed the special business district tax of 1% on August 3rd, 2017. During that time, the village worked hard and diligently to ensure that they would receive a no further remediation letter from the Illinois IEPA, as the site at 2710 South Harlem Avenue was previously a dry cleaners. We received that letter in July of 2018. In August of 2018, the village entered into an agreement with David King and Associates, a commercial real estate broker, to market the location. The property was listed at $260,000 at that time. In August of 2019, the village elected not to renew our exclusive listing with them. Also included within the agenda history sheet are the expenses to date and revenues received for the Harlem Avenue Business District, which includes the land acquisition, demo, and site remediation, and other related fees for the 2710 South Harlem Avenue property. Total costs to date for the purchase, remediation, legal, and maintenance of 27 South Harlem Avenue are approximately $267,000. Dr. Milad Noramati, who actually owns the property at 2704 South Harlem Avenue and also 2720 South Harlem Avenue, approached the village regarding purchasing our property, as it is his intention to sell his property to a cannabis dispensary. His property is located at 2704 South Harlem Avenue. So he currently uses that property for parking, overflow parking, for his parcel at 2720 South Harlem Avenue. He will need the village's property to then build a parking lot to handle that overflow parking. Once that transfer occurs with the dispensary, which they do have a tentative closing date of February 4th, 2022, they will do interior remodel of the site, the dispensary, and then thereafter, once they open, the village would be receiving the following taxes 1% sales tax, 1% business district tax. This tax may only be spent within the legal boundaries of the district on improvements or economic incentives. 1% non-home rule sales tax. This tax may only be spent on road improvements, and the 3% municipal cannabis tax, retailer occupation tax. And that would go directly into the general fund or whatever fund the board elects at that point in time. I do want to note that staff has already started working with the village engineer regarding improvements to the alley and traffic enhancements on Berkeley. And these items will be brought back to the village board at a later date, but that's in anticipation of additional traffic flow. We want to ensure that there's not cut-through traffic over on Berkeley. If the board has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Unfortunately, Dr. Noramati was unable to attend this evening.
Thank you, Manager Francis. Any questions?
If I can.
Mr. Hannon?
On the traffic control issues, I mean, it sounds like this is set to close in February. I don't think anyone knows the timing of when Mint would open. What is the timing as far as the traffic control measures going in?
So we already have some limitations, which is signage right now. We would look at some more physical, permanent enhancements, which would probably be, in my discussions with the village engineer and the director of public works, perhaps a bump out so that traffic would not be able to go down Berkeley from Harlem Avenue or from the dispensary or adjacent properties. And so by the time we get the engineering done, we would try to turn that around relatively quickly, but obviously due to the weather, it wouldn't occur until the spring. But Mint, with their closing date and then the construction, it is my belief, and it will definitely be our effort to make sure that those enhancements are in place before they open.
Thank you.
And we can always make those enhancements by temporary means if needed, to make sure that there is no issues on that neighborhood.
But I do want to note that those enhancements and items, the alley probably will not be able to be redone next year because that will take a little bit longer. However, the traffic safety enhancements, they are unbudgeted, obviously, because we're just wrapping up our budget, and so it would be a budget amendment then in 2022 when we present it to the board.
Thank you. Mr. Yates, do you have a question?
I have to continue, if you don't mind, for a minute or so. I mean, I came all this way, I listened to you for an hour or two,
Sure,
but
please.
the bottom line here is, like I'm saying, I think there's another way we could look at this. I've also suggested that about the lift stations on Groveland Avenue and the two openings in the existing sewer. So I know we already have a pump, but the lift station was in the plan submitted by the Army Corps of Engineers. That has already been established. So it was going to go into the existing sewer anyway, because they weren't paying for any sewer work to be done by the village. So I'm assuming, Dan's here, if that was their plan, to put the lift stations in those two locations that are open right now on Groveland.
One of the lift stations will go on Groveland, the other lift station will go on West.
Going where?
West Avenue.
On West End? Okay, well, one on Groveland, one on West. Okay, that's good. So the question is then, why can't that be done now?
Okay.
You're going to have to do it anyway.
Okay. Can I have a motion and a second on what's on the table here?
I'll make the motion on the 2710 property.
Motion by trustee Gallegos, second by trustee Hannon. Any further questions? Hearing none, Ms. Haley, if you'd please call the roll.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marshauska.
Aye.
Trustee Gallegos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannon.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Clarity.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Yates, don't leave. Let me finish the meeting and we can talk. Okay?
Well, I mean, we finished the meeting. We're going to go into executive session now, or what?
No, we are not.
I mean, Joe, you can talk to me all you want, but the problem is you have other people here, board trustees here, that have a say-so here. I'm looking at them.
Okay,
I hear nothing from
Okay,
them.
all right. let me just,
I heard one from Mr. Gallagher, sent me, thank you for your letter. I heard from Christine Evans in the first time, thank you for your letter. We had a brief conversation, but didn't get into anything as an alternative. So I'm just asking a question. Will you consider putting a lift station, if it's one, on Groveland Avenue in the existing sewer?
okay, the way I understand this, and I could be wrong, is if the flood wall does not get built,
If the flood wall what?
does not get built,
Yeah?
and we put a lift station on Groveland, all we're doing is taking the water from Groveland and moving it to the people on West.
You're doing it anyway. Once that thing floods over there, at the circle on Park Avenue, you're pumping it in the river anyway.
But not until the water recedes.
What?
Not until the water recedes. We don't pump it into the river while the water's still coming up
Come
on
on,
West.
Joe.
Okay,
Well, what's the point of the lift station will do that automatically. It's like a sump pump.
I appreciate your input. Thank you. If we can move on to trustee reports and communication, is there any?
You guys are a joke, really, you know?
Thank you. Trustee Evans, please.
I just wanted to acknowledge the hard work of Eagle Scout Jesus Jimenez and his team of volunteers. Last weekend, they spent many hours in the cold, wet weather making a variety of improvements to the baseball storage shed at Indian Gardens. They rebuilt the roof, replaced rotting wood around the structure, and repaired other parts of it to make it weather and animal-proof. And it looks really nice. And it was a very nice contribution to Riverside's baseball community and others who visit Indian Gardens. So thank you very much, Jesus.
Thank you.
Joe.
Trustee Gallagher.
Yeah, so I have two things. Number one is there's a toy drive that's being driven by our Riverside Police Department. It is to provide toys for the children who are in Sarah's Inn. Anybody who feels generous enough should please drop toys off at the Riverside Police Department, and they can do so from now until December 2nd. Tonight, we approved the Holiday Stroll. There's still a few things that needs to be figured out, but I'll be back at the December 2nd meeting to go over that. But I do want the public to know that while this is a chamber event, it would not be made possible without the help of the Riverside Junior Women's and the Lions Clubs. So it's one of those community efforts that will help drive this successful.
Thank you, Trustee
And that's all I have
Gallagher.
for those two.
Anything else? Hearing none, the board has no need for an executive session tonight, so I would like to ask for a motion and a second to adjourn.
Motion made.
Motion by Trustee Gallagher, second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Pollock. Ms. Haley, if you'd please call the roll.
Trustee Pollock.
Aye.
Trustee Marchowska.
Aye.
Trustee Galagos.
Aye.
Trustee Hannan.
Aye.
Trustee Evans.
Aye.
Trustee Clarity.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.